What's up, everybody? It's Against the Spread podcast, college edition. We are back. Got my boy Beej and Rich with me.
Yo, yo.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing?
Good, brother. Not in super happy spirits this new year, but we're getting
Ah,
through it.
I'm doing much
We're
better than
getting
Beej
through it.
is. You can say that
Should
much.
I need to take this flag down behind me. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Put a nice little M up there, Brennan.
yeah.
Well,
That's y'all.
our boy B or Rich actually got him a little bowl game win with Georgia Tech. I think we already discussed that, but good for your team.
You know,
Georgia obviously took care of business last week with Florida State. Everyone kind of figured that was going to happen with all the opt outs that happened on Florida State's side with their a lot of their ones and even twos entering the portal or going to the NFL draft. So wasn't great for them. Obviously, that game was lopsided, but I kind of expected that. A lot of other games we're going to talk about with the recaps going on. Um, Kind of wanted to jump in on some things before we started. Cam Ward from Washington State put out about a 2-second video of him just saying he's going to the NFL. So quick and efficient from him.
he
Nothing
didn't.
too
He didn't write a
dramatic there.
poem.
Yeah, at least he didn't write a poem. That's
Yeah.
correct. And then DJ, I don't even know how to say his last name, so I'm just going to say DJU. He committed
Maybe.
to Florida State, so that's a big get for them. Hopefully, he learned a lot of things at Oregon State, and he did play really well there. So hopefully, he can go to Florida State and kind of, I guess, bring that team back to what Jordan Travis kind of did, put some of the running into it as well, and see if he can beat out that Brock Glenn kid. Because I'm gonna be honest, that kid's not that bad. So
Mhm.
um, that'll be something to look at as well. And what was the last thing we were going to discuss?
Evan Stewart.
Evan Stewart, yeah. So Evan Stewart, obviously, still in the portal. I did see something from him today. I told you about it earlier, Beach. I thought that was kind of weird that he was um, kind of insinuating that Auburn's team or physical training staff wasn't very good. He said, hopefully, the next team I go to can help me with my mental and physical health problems. So that was a little weird to hear. Something about him having a concussion and them not wanting to disclose that it actually was a concussion and that he was just sitting for rest. So don't know what's really behind that. Hopefully, it doesn't turn into some big situation like that guy from the Chiefs that kind of went on some weird CTE rant.
Yeah.
So hopefully, it didn't
Yeah.
turn out like that. Obviously, that kid is immensely talented. But let's hop into some of these games, man. Let's go get recaps in. First game of the week, obviously, that we wanted to discuss. I don't know it, so go ahead and put it up for me.
Producer Christian.
Missouri and Ohio State, Cotton Bowl. So this was something that we discussed last week. We thought that Missouri was going to handle business, and it was something that was discussed was, okay, well, who's sitting out for Ohio State? Who's going to play? Do we know what's going to happen? So Marvin Jones Jr. ended up actually sitting out, and then it looked like everybody on Missouri's side played. I mean, I didn't see a person sit out for them, maybe one person, but other than that, I mean, everyone else played. So they had their hands full. Ohio State did with Missouri's offense and defense, but it was a low scoring game. Ohio State's actually their defense showed up and played pretty damn good against
Mhm.
Missouri. Kind of held them in check for majority of that game. I know Missouri did get some pretty good luck near the end of the game, I feel like, but also Brady Cook just was very accurate and made some passes that you were like, ooh, I don't know if I would have made that, but he made up for it, obviously, with scoring that touchdown on that tight one that he threw over the middle. So that was a really big game for them. Huge win for their brand, beating a big brand like Ohio State that we discussed about. So, Brendan, do you have anything for this one?
No, I mean, yeah, great momentum getter for Missouri beating a team like Ohio State. I mean, yeah, like we said, not full 100% Ohio State, but to hold them to 3 points, I mean, even a team like Ohio State, it's not like these guys don't have studs in the second string. I mean, this is a team that goes and gets 5 and 4 stars all over the place. So even when your name brand guy isn't playing, you still got another guy right behind him that's just as good. I mean, not
Right.
as good, but going to be putting some production on the field. So I mean, definitely surprising that they were only able to get 3 points. Missouri's defense is good, but that was
I,
definitely surprising.
yeah.
I have a feeling that Ohio State's not too excited about Kyle McCord leaving now. They might be trying to get him back, but it's a little too late for that. But yeah, good for Missouri, man. They're gonna be a team to look out for next year. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's good for program building, and it shows a lot when you have all your guys kind of stay and take a bowl game seriously. Um, and Ohio State, they just cannot beat a team with a fucking big ass M on the side of their helmet or something like that. I don't know. They're allergic to it.
Mhm.
Pretty boring game though, to be honest. But it's good for Missouri that they did get that W.
Yeah, it was exciting for that team. Obviously, Eli has been recruiting well in transfer portal as well as high school recruiting. So I hopefully that momentum keeps going. I do want that brand to grow within the SEC because the more brands that get bigger there and do better, the better the SEC looks. And also losses and wins might mean a little bit more going forward if those teams start to get a little bit better and not so weak like they have been in the past. Let's go to this next game. We got Penn State and Ole Miss. Now, this was one we also were really excited about, but I think all of us were on Ole Miss as well with this one. We felt that Ole Miss was the better team offensively, and I just hoped that Ole Miss's defense could hold up long enough to let their offense kind of get rolling, and it kind of seemed like that was exactly what happened. Defense held up long enough for them to start rolling a little bit on offense, and Penn State just even though they did score more than I thought they were going to, it was a high scoring game, I guess, when you think about it in the grand scheme of things, 38-25, I think. So that's pretty high scoring for these two teams. And Penn State's defense still looked good. Still looked good. At some points they still looked good. But when you thought about it, it was like, oh, Penn State number one rushing defense. They're not going to be able to do a lot on the ground. Judkins looked great, in my opinion. I mean, that kid is one of the best running backs in the SEC. And I think if Schrader isn't in the SEC this year, that Judkins would have been like by far the best running back. So pretty consistent by Ole Miss on what we think we're going to see from them next year. And obviously they're adding more talent on offense and even more on defense that is going to be purely insane to see with them adding all those defensive linemen, all those outside linebacker help. And then I think they did go grab a corner as well. So a lot of help for Ole Miss next year. Penn State, I mean, what can you say, man? Not an awful season, but like we always talk about, they're that third team in the Big Ten, and Big Ten didn't do too hot in the bowl games. So made sense, but we'll talk about another Big Ten team later that was pretty much the only winner of this week. But,
Exactly.
Any thoughts on this one, Beach?
No, I mean, Penn State did lose a big player on the defensive side of the ball in Abdul Carter, their stud linebacker. So that probably threw him off a little bit. I'd assume he's probably their play caller. The center of their defense kind of revolves around him. But I mean, this Ole Miss offense is just always super productive. I mean, they had 340 yards at halftime, and Penn State's allowed 223 yards average per game. So I just don't think, as we have always talked about, like Penn State's offense is just not a come from behind offense. They're a team that they have to lead up front, and then they can play more comfortable defense. But as soon as they get behind and they're trying to create spectacular plays to make up a deficit, yeah, that's where you see Drew Aller make mistakes. I think they even threw in another quarterback at some point. He ended up throwing like a 50-something yard touchdown. But yeah, Drew Aller he's got some kinks to work out. But Ole Miss, man, just like Missouri, gonna be scary to play these teams next year. Like it used to be, I think, tier one, obviously you got Alabama, Georgia, tier two, Ole Miss, Missouri. Now I think it's gonna be like a 1A, 1B type tier. I mean, Ole Miss is gonna be scary. Now, can they get all these guys to gel in 1 year and for it to work? Maybe, and with an awful defensive coordinator and Pete Golding, hate that guy. But yeah, no, I mean they're definitely. I'm glad they're not on our regular season schedule next year. Alabama's, that is, but
lucky.
Yeah, this game definitely went the way we thought it was going to. I didn't think Ole Miss was going to score this much. I thought this was going to be more of like a 24-17 game, but pretty impressive on Ole Miss' part. So yeah.
No, I think Ole Miss's offense looked really, really good in the game. Drew Aller, I think he was the benefactor of garbage time. I don't think he threw for that many yards when the game was close. I think it was like less than 100. And then garbage time came around, and Ole Miss is, getting ready for the offseason, and he starts throwing 20-yard passes, shit like that. Stuff. He just doesn't look like a good starting quarterback to me, and especially with Ole Miss's defense not being the one that it is next year. That's really the only takeaway I got from this game. I don't think he's the answer, and he's proved that against 3 teams this year, and one of them doesn't have a good defense.
he did. I mean, he did go. I mean, he did throw for almost 300 yards. He didn't look awful like the whole game, but
I just thought when the game was close,
there's just times. Yeah, I agree. There's times where when you get your quarterback on the field, like I feel very comfortable every time Georgia's offense steps on the field with Carson Beck. I'm like, okay, we're gonna score, or
You're not gonna go 3 and out when you don't need to go 3 and out.
Right. Like if we have to go get it, we're gonna go get it. I've never watched a Penn State game and been like, okay, they need it, go get it, Drew. Like I've never felt like that's gonna happen.
And,
it's always like, well, shit, this motherfucker.
Example in that Michigan game when the whole world's hoping that he scores a damn touchdown or he just doesn't go 3 and out. It's 2 runs and then a terrible pass. Like,
yeah.
And they got him on the, I think some ESPN or somebody put him in top 10 for preseason Heisman finals.
Apparently, statistically, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. Which tells you something.
Very
about
surprising.
That.
Well, that's what Brennan was talking about last week. Weren't you talking about how Drew Aller wasn't that bad?
Looked at his stats and I was like, "Geez."
Well, but that's the thing. That's why you just can't go purely off of stats. You think like if you look at his stats, you're like, okay, whatever, kind of good, not that bad.
Yeah.
You go watch the games and you're like, this fucking kid can never get it done. When he needs to.
Like exactly.
And he just can't. He can't get it done. So I agree. The game did end up how we thought it was going to end up. So 2-0 that this week for us, money line so far on the games. So that's good for the brand. Let's hop into this next game. I think we went with Arizona and Oklahoma game next, which, dude, super, super exciting game. I mean, one of the best games of the week, in my opinion. Just because I was so excited to see Fafita and like see what he was going to do.
He's a baller,
what was he going to be able to do against Oklahoma?
He's a baller.
Like, dude. And even though he didn't throw for 5 touchdowns like he did in the last regular season game he had, I mean, this kid's still like almost 400 yards passing.
Yeah.
And even though he did throw an interception, and at the time you're like, ooh, I don't know about that. Like that wasn't very pretty. But throughout the game, he went through his progressions nicely. He runs when he needs to. He gets out the pocket. I mean, I really, really think that Arizona is going to have a big shot at winning Big 12 next year, and Oklahoma coming to the SEC is going to have to fix a lot of things, but it was good for them to go ahead and start that young guy, Arnold, and kind of get him going. Seeing what he's about. Obviously, he did make some mistakes. He made a couple turnovers, and you knew that was going to happen. You're going to a game where you're playing experienced defense. You're not experienced. You haven't even started this year at all. You've been sitting behind a guy, and you're young. And you go ahead and you go in and you make a couple mistakes, but you also don't play awful. Like he didn't play awful. He made some incredible throws as well. And you can tell he's got juice. Like you're watching him and you're like, okay, this Jackson Arnold kid, he might have it, but it's just going to take that experience to get him there. You know, he hasn't been in the offense for 4 years. He hasn't been sitting behind somebody for that long. He hasn't got real playing time yet. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but looking at the two teams, I thought we could trust Arizona more with getting the ball down the field and being able to take advantage of that Oklahoma defense, and especially with Oklahoma's offense, kind of a lot of guys missing, offensive line, quarterback. We thought that was going to be something that was going to impact the game, and it did. So, Rich, what do you think about Fafita's performance, man?
Now, Fafita, he's a freshman, right? He looked really fucking good. I was very impressed, especially with, Oklahoma. They're supposed to be known for their defense with their new head coach Venables, but he kind of shredded them. I mean, the game was pretty much on his shoulders because they didn't have much of a run game, so he just kind of had to, sling it with his arm. And he's got his wide receiver McMillan now that they got a great connection. Right. But on the other foot, Oklahoma with Jackson, he did not look bad. I think he looked like he can be the guy. I mean, he turned the ball over 3 times, but you got to have some kind of growing pains. And
when they knew that was going to happen, right?
Exactly.
They knew throwing him into the fire like this was going to cause some sort of like big disruption, right? Something's going to happen. This guy's going to have a problem here, but I don't know.
Especially the
Beach, go
team in
ahead.
Arizona that we were talking about, they want to build a program, so they're taking that game seriously. Like, you know,
Right.
this
And
is
Oklahoma was missing 3 of their starting linemen, so I mean,
Well, yeah,
probably
that's what I'm
had some
saying. Like,
pressure
we
getting
knew they
to
were
him.
going to
Yeah.
be. We knew they
Yeah.
were going to be missing some guys on the offensive line, and their quarterback
Yeah.
wasn't the same. It's a young guy, young offensive
Yeah.
line. I think one of their backups even transferred as well on the offensive line. So
Mhm.
it wasn't like they were going out there full stacked and ready to go on offense, just missing Dylan Gabriel. I mean, they
Yeah.
were missing some other guys too. So him throwing 3 interceptions, yeah, it sucks, but him also throwing for 300 and 50 something
360,
yards,
yeah.
yeah, 60 yards and 2 touchdowns also looked great. And he threw the ball 45 times. They were letting that bitch rip. Like he
Mhm.
wasn't just like
Yeah.
he wasn't just sitting there in the pocket
Yeah.
and throwing it for 100 yards every time he threw the ball. I mean, he was dotting it up. So
Yeah.
I was kind of impressed with how he played, but obviously Arizona pulled this one out like we kind of thought.
Mhm.
Yeah. That Fafita and McMillan duo is sick. I mean, I'm pretty sure I heard they went to high school together
What did
too.
we say last week? They're
So-
going into the Big 12 and winning it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
they're gonna fucking
early
do it.
prediction. Put it on ATS, man. Early prediction.
that
They're
shit.
winning the Big
ATS.
12. At
Go
least,
ahead and
at
put us on
least,
the board,
at least
man.
playing. They're
Alright.
playing in the Big 12 championship. I think
Because
they'll
you know
be.
what? Who's
I could
who's
see
the
them.
team that we're thinking about except for them? Like, who's the other team in the Big 12 that you're like, that's a scary team next year?
I mean,
you
it'd
look
have
at
to be
Kansas
Oklahoma State. Or,
Oklahoma State?
Yeah,
Oklahoma State or
Oklahoma State,
Kansas
maybe.
State.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Oklahoma State lost
They're
Ollie
losing
Gordon,
their
right?
quarterback too. No, I think Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon
I
went in the
think he
portal
might
right
be
after he
soft.
won the Doak Walker. Literally
That's
won the
true.
Doak Walker. Next day was like,
He
all right,
said
guys,
peace.
portal, see ya.
Is Ollie Gordon
Like,
really
that
in the
was-
portal?
I
What?
don't think so.
Oh, one
Did
second,
y'all
one second. I'm looking this up.
Do y'all not remember that happened right after he won the Doak? Okay, that could have been a parody account, and I'm really upset if that was a
Yeah.
parody.
You could have gotten
Because
caught.
I've taken that seriously since it happened. I'm gonna be
I was like,
upset
if
that
he's in the
actually-
portal, I've heard. Well, I mean, I see one web page where he's actually in the portal.
I
It
don't
was
know.
December 24th, 2023.
Wasn't it right after the awards? Like that was something that
Merry
was discussed.
Christmas,
Like he was going
Oklahoma
to get in
State.
the portal.
When did they play their bowl game?
Dude, the landing spots are Oregon, Alabama, Oklahoma. If this
I
is
do not know.
accurate,
We don't need them.
I don't know.
I mean-
This will be weird. I mean, there's not any fucking news on it though.
I mean, he
so-
played in the bowl game on the 27th.
Yeah,
So-
I'm looking at stuff now and it's saying that like okay, so Oklahoma State. I don't know, dude, because there's some that said he did and some that said he didn't into the portal. So
I have no idea.
I don't know.
But
This is
anyway, give us
Anyway, yeah.
Arizona.
fucking weird.
Arizona,
Arizona.
put your life savings on Arizona to win the Big 12. Not financial advice, just pretty good advice.
Yeah.
Not financial advice. So next games that we have, obviously hopping into the playoff games, man. Texas is going to be the first game we talk about. Texas, Washington. I mean, dude, what a performance! by
We
Let's
were-
just
I
let's
mean,
just talk about how wrong we've
Let's
been
just
about
glaze
Washington
Penix
all
this
we'll
whole-
year.
have to
Whole
look.
section.
We're gonna touch on it. We're gonna touch on it. Whole year we were screaming Oregon. We were saying fuck we were saying fuck Michigan as well and fuck Washington. And you know what sucks about that is the whole year we're like, okay, frauds. Two biggest frauds, Michigan, Washington. And now they're playing in the fucking championship.
Yeah.
So
Double
it makes
whammy.
us look like we're not reliable.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be honest, dude. Did anyone else at the beginning of the season think that Michigan and Washington were going to be the two people that eventually climb that mountaintop and get there?
I
I
think
don't think
maybe
it was-
people thought Michigan, but nobody thought Washington.
Because even
Yeah.
after Washington beat Oregon, it was still fuck them. Oregon's still
Yeah.
better, and we thought this exact same thing. So when I saw like the media doing it, I was like, okay, we actually are right on this one. I think
We're on the right track.
Washington doesn't look as good as Oregon, and that was something we talked about continuously. Like, I don't know, these guys don't look like the same, and when you look at them at the end of the season, and especially with them just playing Texas, the best front seven in college football, what sucks is Texas actually didn't look bad on defense. They were in phase with the wide receivers all the time. They were always there. It just seemed like Michael Penix was just a step ahead every time, like threw the ball just over that shoulder or right in front or just a little too high for the defender not to be able to get it. I mean, multiple times in that game, you're like, holy shit, how
Yeah.
are they doing this? And they were moving the ball basically all on big explosive plays.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they were meticulously moving the ball down the field, getting 10 yards, 20 yards. Like it was like constant bombs the whole game and just hitting all of them. So that was huge for them to be able to do that. And then Texas looked like they were making progress, I guess, in the second half on how they were playing.
Yeah.
And I think that they looked a little off though, did they not? Like offensively, like they looked a little off. Quinn Ewers looked a little rattled the whole game. He was like 50% majority of the game. So
yeah, no. So the third quarter, I saw some crazy stat. I think it was TOP that Washington had the ball like 12 minutes to Texas's 2. They just couldn't sustain any drives, and then Washington would get it back and just hold on to it because Penix would make some fucking insane throw that nobody else in college football can make, and then it would just extend, and it was like that for the entire third quarter. And then the fourth quarter, it actually got interesting because Washington got their running back hurt, who was limping the whole game. That's another set of issues but yeah, dude, this game with Penix throwing the ball, that was so pretty. I mean, it was just a laser show.
I mean, how many times that game did you go, wow, that was a pretty ball? I mean, that was I don't know how he did that.
I don't think I've seen that level of throwing all year in college. Like that was just fucking clinical the entire time.
430 yards. I think he had like 11 incompletions out of his like 38 throws. So like 29 for 38 or some shit like that.
So 9 incompletions.
That's insane. 9 incompletions and threw for 430 yards. They only rushed for 100. Their best running back only rushed for 49 yards, and they're still dotting these boys up the whole game. Like they knew, hey, they're going to throw the ball, and it's going to be for big plays. And Texas just couldn't stop it, and that shows you how explosive that team is. And then Washington's defense actually really showed up when they needed to, and you were like last week when we talked about it, we were like, okay, Washington's defense was good against Oregon's offense. How good are they going to be against Texas with the weapons that they have? I was confused about that, and like how was Washington's defense going to be able to play with it? Were they going to be able to stop the run and stop them passing, or just one or the other? What were they going to be able to do? And turns out they pretty much nullified Quinn Ewers in the first half, maybe even the first 3 quarters. They made him pretty non-existent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had 97 yards through 3 quarters. Yeah, that was pretty
he had to fucking
bad,
sling
dude.
it in the fourth to even bring him back. It was crazy.
Yeah, like that was pretty bad. But then I will say, like fourth quarter really balled.
Nick is okay. So Nick says that Washington. He told Troy in October that Washington was the Walmart version of LSU 2019.
Yeah,
that's a funny comparison. I mean, yeah, I can't say no to it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. They're pretty damn good. I mean, especially. Well, that there's a reason why that Washington O-line won the Joe Moore Award. I mean, to not give up a single sack against that Texas front seven is pretty insane. And like you were touching on Michael Penix, man, that guy only needs his wide receivers only need a step for him to put that ball where he needs it to be.
That's all they need.
Sometimes.
I think I saw one where he put it over the top of the defender and hit his guys right in the hands and he dropped it. And I'm just like, dude, I mean, how do you drop that? But I mean, how do you make that throw?
And he also, what is he, the first player since Patrick Mahomes to throw for 4,500 yards in back-to-back seasons? I saw that during the broadcast. So
I mean,
pretty insane. Or have 400 or 4,500 yards. I don't know if that's just passing, but 4,500 yards. So that's pretty insane for him to do that, and makes me even more excited now for him to go to the draft and be able to watch him on whatever team he goes to. Because, I mean, a lot of people are going to try to compare him to a lefty quarterback, so like Tua, but like this guy's different. Like he's different.
Much better.
This guy's accurate, and he's big. He doesn't go down easy. He gets out of things when he needs to. So it's going to be exciting to see where.
I think part of the thing that we were down on Washington all year is because like it just doesn't look sustainable because it's like a perfect throw every single time. It's like they're just lobbing it up to a first round receiver, but like it's in a perfect spot every time, and you're like,
but that's what.
How long can a college quarterback keep doing this? And he does it every single fucking time. It's insane.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a different outlook on him. I was listening to Josh Pate and Greg McElroy talk on his show, and Greg McElroy was like, dude, what people fail to understand is Washington has like 7 or 8 guys that could go in the first 2 rounds in this draft. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit. I was like, the casual in me was like, oh damn. That's pretty damn good. So when I heard that, I was like, dang, I might have a different outlook on this team. But I still thought Texas was gonna get them. But yeah, man. Hey, also shout out Sarkisian, man. Did y'all see that story on his whole open heart
His
surgery
heart
and stuff?
Yeah, I did. That was
Did you
crazy.
see that, Rich?
No, I
Yeah,
didn't see that.
At Alabama, when he was at Alabama, Nick Saban always gets like his coaches like an executive checkup or whatever. So he had to go do this checkup. He thought it was stupid, but he figured out, had no idea. He only has like 3 out of the 4 valves that hearts typically have.
2.
And
damn.
it was something crazy. I was like, he has a freaking 10-inch scar on his chest. Like had open heart surgery. Freaking, I was like, wow. That's
I
it
didn't
was
know
like
that
it was
about
like
Sarkisian.
dire. It was a dire situation
yeah,
where like
yeah.
he could have died at any moment.
Yeah.
And so they had to do surgery like immediately. It's just crazy that like it's crazy that a lot of teams in general don't do that for their staff. They only do it for their players, like physicals. But you look at these teams and what makes Nick Saban so great, dude, it's just awesome to see like that kind of person's like, oh no, I want my staff to be fully healthy as well.
Exactly.
And go and get him healthy needs. So
just
that was
another
pretty
reason
sick
he's the
story to
GOAT.
see.
Just another reason he's the
Nick
GOAT.
say just now?
Oh, Huncho, thanks for stopping by.
Huncho.
We do look pretty cute right
My
now,
boy.
to be honest.
Oh, Huncho Cacti, my boy.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So let's hop into this next game, man. We got obviously big downer
Right,
for our boy Beige.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Wipe my tears.
Dude, I mean, so me and Brennan watched this game together. It was, I mean, in the first half, watching this game, I like, even though the score was 10-13, I remember looking at Brennan, I'm going, oof, bro, if y'all didn't get that, if y'all didn't pick up that muff punt and score, I don't even know if I think y'all have 3 points right now. I think it's 3-13. So that's how ugly it looked. And then you're taking 5 sacks on as well. And then you also have Michigan kind of making some mistakes, I think. And
Michigan could have been up, yeah, like
could have been up by
24-3.
way more, dude. I mean, could have been up by way more. So lucky for Bama to even be in that game at all. So that was lucky, first of all, for them. And then second of all, I think that Bama caught a groove in the second half and started making a little bit smarter of choices. Obviously, they still didn't have any time in the pocket. I mean, he had no time in the pocket in the first half, 5 sacks. Yeah. So 5 sacks to only 1 in the second half. Pretty big difference right there. But Michigan also, first half, didn't look impressive on offense. They looked okay. They look impressive. Second half, I think what really killed Bama is the 2 drives you needed Michigan to not score or not do anything. You let them have like huge, like 40, 50-yard big gainers. Yeah. So that kind of fucked you in the end of things. So like, I don't know. I think that Bama was a little aggressive in the fourth, and they needed to be, but it did like JJ McCarthy just made that perfect little, throw out to the flats, or a perfect little play that was being called where he could throw it right behind these 2 guys that are flooding the zone. So Michigan did call a pretty good game, man. They really did. Yeah, no, they made all the right decisions. I mean, we talked about it last week. We said, obviously, Milroe struggles the most whenever you put pressure on them. And I mean, they were blitzing the shit out of us. I mean, they were like rushing 6 people every time. Like more guys were rushing than we had blockers. And it was just like, we can't do anything right now. I mean, we had a lot of success running the ball, I think, but it just we ran into situations where we had to throw the ball due to time. And whenever we got in those situations, they blitzed the hell out of us, confused our offensive line. And Jalen Milroe obviously is not very successful in those situations. But, I mean, God, it blew my mind watching that ball that J.J. McCarthy threw on that last drive they scored to tie the game up. Wild. He threw it. Our Deontay Lawson, our linebacker, tipped it. The ball is still in a perfect spiral after the tip. I'm like, Brennan, you know what I think happened? I think it actually was a duck, and he hit it perfectly. Spin better.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, geez, man. And I did not have a lot of confidence when we got that ball with a minute and a half left. I was like, man, I don't know if we can push this ball that quick. If we would have had, more timeouts, maybe 2.5 minutes, and actually could have ran the ball on them, I think we would have been able to do something with it. But
Right.
I was like, dude, Milroe hasn't done a damn thing all game, and other than little check down passes or I'm trying to remember. I don't think we completed a ball 10 yards down the field.
I don't think you did either. I can't
like
remember one.
I think a 5-yard catch was probably and then a run, but
it really surprises me that like Michigan locked y'all up like that when I feel
Corners were
like
playing press man a majority of the time. It was nuts.
dude, it was like they were on him the whole game and never really came off. And like Milroe had no time, and even when he had time, he never threw a good ball. He didn't throw a good ball at all. From the start of the game, he was throwing bad balls.
Yeah.
So
and you can tell they were just the better team in that game by far, because when's the last time you've seen a team make that many mistakes against Alabama in terms of the muff punts and this and that? It's like, and we still lose. Like, that doesn't happen very often with the Nick Saban team. So, I mean,
that's what I'm saying, man. If you see those teams make mistakes, like Georgia, miss field goal, fumble, all this shit happened to Georgia, and they lose by 3. You expect that, though, right? From a team that has that many mistakes against a Bama team.
Yeah.
But then Michigan goes and plays them, and you're like, dude, this team hasn't done shit. Like, I don't even remember a play on offense besides that long little pass in the very end of the game that went for like 50 yards where I was like, oh shit, they just did something big. Like, it was not impressive what Michigan did. But then you look back and you're like, oh shit, it kind of was impressive because they just beat Bama and they looked like shit the whole game.
How about we were talking shit about that wide receiver from Michigan who was it, Blake Corum or Edwards, had that long run on that final drive, and the wide receiver, was it Romeo Wilson, I think his name is?
Oh, maybe I'm talking about the run. Yeah, when he got
and he blocked in the back, and it was like, dude, what
reason.
are you doing? We were like, you just killed that drive, and then he has 2 spectacular plays, catches a touchdown pass, and it's like, well, he just made up for that real quick. So.
Yeah. He caught that. That's the one where he caught that insane catch
off the fingertips. Yeah.
Off the fingertips, and still managed to.
How does that ball stay in a spiral? I mean, I just don't get it. Because Deontay Lawson was all over that shit all night. He was definitely spying JJ McCarthy, and he swatted down, I think, 3 or 4 passes the whole game.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, for sure.
But I mean, he almost got that one, but fuck.
Had they gotten in, Dogs would be the Natty favorite. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things that happened with Georgia. I think Georgia was banged up playing Alabama. Alabama played their best game of the season against Georgia.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Georgia made mistakes and got a couple calls that were unlucky. So, I think Georgia's the best team in the country, and I don't think any of these teams in the playoffs, bar Washington, because we don't know what.
I was about to say Washington, dude. I don't know. I wouldn't want to play Washington right now.
We don't know what kind of animal Washington is. So bar Washington, I think Georgia would wipe everybody else in the playoffs.
I don't think you can look at either of these games though and be like, "Oh, this team didn't deserve to be in there." It's like shit.
I think the
FSU fans that are saying
everybody
that,
deserves to be in right now.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Two fantastic games.
Look, Michigan handled their business
Yeah.
During the year and won the Big Ten. Cool, they're in. Washington wins Pac-12, they're in. It makes sense. They were phenomenal, and they just beat Texas, so you can't say anything about that.
Yeah.
I think it just sucks that Georgia moves from 1 to 6.
Yeah.
When obviously they're the best team, it's just like, oh, well, we have too many existential factors where we can't keep you in, even though we do think you're a top 4 team. So that's why I do think it's good that it's being brought into a top 12 for the playoff. I think that's going to be a little bit too big, though. I don't think that's going to stay around. I think it's going to go to like 6 or 8. So I think 6 or 8 is going to be where they kind of find it. Because if you look at those games, those bowl games like Liberty, Oregon, Georgia, FSU. If you look at some of these games that are like down lower,
the gap was
they weren't good games and they were kind of blowouts. So
and then you look at those teams like we've talked about. It's like the 9 to 12 teams. Those are going to be teams who lost their big games. So, for instance, like say an Ole Miss, who has to play Georgia and Texas next year. I don't know if Texas is on their schedule, but per se, like if they lose both of those games, they're still going to be number 9 probably if they win all their other games. But it's like, what's the point? They've already lost those 2 games. Like, do you think they're going to win if they got a third try?
Well,
I don't know.
Brandon, I do think teams can get better during the year, right? Like, I don't think – I mean, Alabama is a perfect case for that this year.
Yeah.
Alabama lost to Texas and then beat everybody's ass on the way to the championship, except for Auburn, but like pretty much handled their business all the way up to the SEC championship. Then beat Georgia, number 1 team in the
Yeah.
nation. They go and play Michigan down to the wire, basically. So I
Yeah.
think teams can get better and grow throughout the year. I think Washington grew throughout the year. I don't think Washington was as good in week 6 as they are now. I think they're so much better now. So teams can grow. So I do see the difference. I also think Ole Miss got better towards the end of the
Yeah.
season. So
I guess you'd have to look at it in terms of like
it's
for
like it's
instance,
also
Alabama
when did you
last
lose?
year.
When did you
Yeah.
lose? And how'd you lose? You know,
Yeah,
those
yeah,
are also
exactly. I was
big
gonna say
factors.
it's different. Like if you're losing these games by a field goal or you're getting blown out by 24 points. So I mean, yeah, if you're losing these games by a field goal, one mistake cost you the game. Yeah, you could actually win in another try. Yeah, that's different. But I mean, if you get
Yeah, how
absolutely
many like it
smoked,
also how many players did you have like out?
yeah,
Because if
true.
it's like FSU where oh shit, my starting quarterback's out and he's the game changer of our team. Okay, well then you lose by 20 the next game you play and you're like, oh shit, we lost because our
Mhm.
quarterback's out. You can give up a case where okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like even Texas
Yeah.
losing to Oklahoma, but then Quinn Ewers being out a couple games and them winning those games barely, everyone was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Texas, I don't know, man. Y'all are looking kind of shaky." And then Quinn Ewers comes back, they look better than
Yeah.
before, and you're just
That
like,
would be
okay.
the I guess that would be the best part, just for a team who may have to deal with an injury. Like say it was the 12-team playoff this year and Texas lost Quinn Ewers for those 2 games. They lost those 2 games and then all of a sudden they get their quarterback back. They're looking great again. So if
Yeah,
they're still
exactly.
they're like number 11, 12 with those 3 losses. It's like, okay, that makes sense. They only lost 2 games because they didn't have their starting quarterback. They're
Exactly.
a much
Yeah, you
different
look
team
at it
now.
like
So
that. Yeah.
it'll help those teams for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it is a good thing, but we'll see how it's going to be next year with what these teams are going to be playing like towards the end of the season and how many of these teams that are ranked, 9, 10, 11, 12, if they're even going to be good games. Like we don't
Yeah.
know yet. So that's going to be exciting to see. But
I got one more
let's
point.
go.
One more point. Can we give
Okay.
JJ
Okay.
McCarthy his flowers for this game at least?
No.
Come on.
No.
Come on.
He's still not good. He is still
Come
not
on.
good.
3 tutties and 200 yards passing. Come on
Dude,
now.
my dog is still not good. He is still not good.
Bro, he made a one-handed catch behind his head, turns around and chucks
he's
a beautiful
athletic.
ball to a receiver.
So he's athletic.
Tell me a quarterback that makes that play besides Penix.
A lot.
No
There's
way.
a lot of athletic quarterbacks.
That guy's
There's a lot of
at
athletic
least he has the
quarterbacks.
dog in him. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
He
I thought he was going to be hurt. I thought
played
he
a
had little
good game,
concussion.
didn't make
When he-
mistakes. Like he was
when
a
he
better
came up
quarterback
with-
in this
Concussion
game.
too.
He was a better quarterback in this game.
He came up with a full yard of grass in
Yeah.
his helmet. I was like, oh, he might be
No,
concussed.
I'm
I thought he was out. I thought he was
I'm
out, too.
agreeing with Nick here. No is what I'm going to say. No,
I
because I don't
mean,
think he's
he
good.
played a flawless game and was the better
I
quarterback.
think, but also, let's move on to this next game because I think we can talk more about JJ McCarthy in this next
No,
game.
I don't want his ass on the
Um,
Patriots. He's a good college quarterback. Okay, college quarterback.
Colm, go ahead and go to this national championship game. Let's get this graphic up. I want to talk about that a little bit before we get started on this JJ McCarthy talk. So, look, national championship, Washington, Michigan. The line is Michigan -4.5.
Crazy.
I think that's going to go down. Obviously, I don't think that's going to stay at 4.5. If
It's
I
already
was
gone up,
anybody that's
apparently.
betting, if I'm betting, I'm going ahead and betting Washington +4.5. In my opinion, because I think that it's going to be a
Yeah.
battle of the quarterbacks, and if Washington can keep Michigan's defense from them sacking him like Jalen Milroe 6 times, especially 5 in the first half. And if you let Michael Penix kind of get those balls off like he was against Texas, it's a battle of the quarterbacks then. And I don't think JJ McCarthy wins the battle of the quarterbacks in that situation.
Yeah.
Now, can Washington's defense stop Michigan's run game, stop Blake Corum? They do have really good schemes. Like Michigan can scheme up some plays, dude. Like they really can. And they schemed a lot of shit against Alabama where I was like, oh my God, that's the only reason why they're winning this game is because they're scheming shit and making this Alabama defense look fucking undisciplined. So if they can do that to Washington and make them look undisciplined, which all their shit's on tape now. They put out all the stops. So all their shit's on tape now. So Washington can go back and look how these things were drawn up, what they have to do to adjust to it, how they can make sure that they play good against this, against JJ McCarthy, and what Alabama had success in the second half against JJ McCarthy, how they played him. So it's going to be exciting, but I think it's going to turn out to be a battle of the quarterbacks if Washington can stop that run game from Michigan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I think in the other game, I don't think really JJ McCarthy was ever uncomfortable in that
Yeah.
game. He was making, his typical JJ McCarthy plays, but I don't think he was ever uncomfortable because that run game was there. I mean, it was at least a threat all game. And then they
Yeah.
were scheming really well. And if they get in a game where Washington can't stop the run and Michigan's just holding on to the ball the whole time, Penix is sitting on the sidelines with his dick in his hand, and then he can't
Yep.
do anything. So, I mean, I agree. And then another matchup we got to watch, though, is these Washington wide receivers against that Michigan secondary.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's what
a
I would
lot of
say.
the game, too, Milroe, he did take a couple sacks where he had no time. But then, there were a couple sacks that were like, who's he throwing? Like, this guy's covered by two people. This guy doesn't have – they're all covered. I mean,
Yeah.
none of them could create separation against the Michigan secondary. So with Penix and Odunze, I think that's like a high possibility, like, because you're not going to be able to double Odunze and then just leave
Yeah.
Polk wide open or leave McMillan wide
Right.
open.
Yeah.
So
And like we spoke on earlier, Penix doesn't need as much room to make a throw as Jalen Milroe would.
exactly.
So-
he doesn't
so
need a
that-
whole clean pocket. He can
Yeah,
run a little bit and
exactly.
then
He
throw it.
also can read defenses better. So
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
huge factor. And that's what I think it's going to be huge for Jalen Milroe to go back to Bama this year and get better this offseason on. If he can learn how to read defenses better, the kid will be good. Like, he
Yeah.
has a good arm and he's not bad. I think he makes some bad decisions sometimes in throwing the ball and not making his mind up quick enough.
Yeah.
And that kills you as a quarterback, obviously not making your mind up. So if he can do
Well-
that and start learning how to play better in a fast situation and read defenses faster, I think he'll be way better. So
And Washington
exciting to see
actually
he can grow.
Washington actually has a center that can snap the ball to their quarterback. Unlike
Yeah,
Alabama.
that too.
I mean,
Very true.
God.
That also goes
That-
back to this. Maybe you should recruit better at center.
Yeah,
Maybe
dude,
you should do
I
that.
don't. How about I saw something. Somebody made a parody count of Seth MacLaughlin and was like, "I'm coming back next year." It was like, "Oh hell no, dude! Hell no! Get your
Hell
ass
no.
on. Go to fucking E-Trade or wherever you're going to." Yeah,
Oh
we
my
don't
God,
want
I'm
you
coming back next year.
But we have unfinished business. Hell no.
Yeah, but Nick,
How
you're
about-
right. The 50-50 balls with Washington receivers feel like 75-25. It feels like they're always
they
going to
don't
make
feel
those
like
plays.
50-50. Yeah.
Mhm. And and
And that
Zach,
changes everything, man.
You make a great point, Zach, that Penix can read pressures probably way better than Milroe can. So
Yeah, he can step up in a pocket.
I know he can.
he's
It's
gonna have
fucking fact.
he's
Like-
gonna have the right people blocking so that there's a clean pocket for him to throw.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
Nick's
'cause
having
there's a few
nightmares of
times-
Penix every time he sees him now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
few times Milroe just didn't even see a blitz coming off the edge. Like, just two guys shadowed down, and he, as soon as he gets the ball, he's just looking straight left. Had no idea there was two guys coming right at him. I'm like,
Or maybe he
buddy, how
did.
do you
Maybe that's
not
why he
see
threw
that?
it there.
Yeah.
No, he
But
didn't
do
throw
y'all
it. He got sacked.
Do y'all think Michigan's
no,
defensive
maybe I
line
wasn't
and
watching that
pressure
play.
is better than Texas's that they were throwing at him?
No,
I
don't
mean,
think so.
no, I don't think so. And that's the thing is, Washington didn't even allow one sack against that Texas front seven.
Yeah,
So
line
I
is
mean, I can't
crazy.
imagine that they would allow any against Michigan. I mean, I think Michigan's good at getting pressure, but they're not a heavy sack team. Which, I mean, it might not look like that against Bama, but I mean, that's typically what you read about them. Like, yeah, they can get some good pressure, but they can't always close in on the sack. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Michael Penix, watching him in that Texas game, I've doubted him enough. I almost just want
Yeah.
to pick Michigan and then because I
Yeah.
want Washington to win, but but yeah, no, I mean, he's
All
he's
right, yeah.
fucking good.
Money line bets for this week.
Washington.
Washington.
Fuck.
Don't fucking pick Michigan. You try to be fucking Kirk Herbstreit and pick the opposite.
No, I'm gonna go with Washington. We've doubted them enough. I picked them last week though because I was
Well,
being-
in that case, congratulations, Michigan, you're winning the championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but hey,
Um.
we'll be excited. That's for sure. Maybe we'll do a
Yeah,
little.
so-
Maybe we'll try to do a little live watch party or something.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I'm able to, dude, I will do that. I think that'll
Yeah.
be fun. I know our producer Colm has been thinking about wanting to do that as well for some of these live games. So That'll be pretty
Get some
cool.
content out there, Watch us
Exactly,
watch
exactly. We gotta get
Washington
some
lose.
content.
Yeah.
So man, it's been a insane college football season. I know we started pretty late in the college football season doing these podcasts, but we're going to be doing them still during the off season, talking about transfer portal, spring, what teams are looking like next year. We'll have some topics. Obviously, we want people to jump in on these lives so they can ask us questions and kind of do a live Q&A during some of these. So switching up the content because it's not going to be live football anymore is going to be a little different, but I think we're going to be able to manage and get through it these next couple months and be here for you guys next season because I'm really excited to see what this 12-team playoff is going to look like, how it's going to be ranked during the whole year. So it's going to be pretty exciting. We'll see you guys then, though. Any last words for you, Bij and Rich, before we
Well, we're
sign
definitely
off?
going to see him Tuesday after the game, right?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, and also, I mean, are we going to do?
We're gonna look like a
I
bunch of
didn't-
assholes.
we still gotta
if we get up here and
discuss.
Washington loses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. We'll discuss. Did we plan on? Are we going to try to drop down to like twice a month rather than every week with the off-season stuff? Or
Well,
I know
I think we're
supposed to
going
be
to
talking.
discuss it a little bit more. We'll
Yeah.
obviously discuss it a little bit more offline or
Yeah.
off air, but I do think that there might be some months where there's just dry air and no
Yeah.
football or nothing to talk about, and we might drop down to like 2 times a month, and that might happen during the summer a little bit.
Yeah.
But picking it up back in the fall of 1 time every week again, so you'll get
Yep.
4 episodes a month back near the fall. So
This is like the
Yeah.
quickest
hopefully we can
college
get back to
football
that.
season of all time.
I know.
I know it felt like that, man. It felt like it was pretty.
Maybe. We'll be back.
Nick wants live during the game. All right.
No, we're
Producer
gonna
Christian,
try.
you heard
We're
it.
gonna try for sure.
Yeah.
You heard it.
I think that's definitely going to be a thing we need to start doing for next year as well. Maybe do some lives during the year. I think producer Christian also wants to do a live during the Super Bowl or something like that. So that'll be pretty fun too.
Hey, we need to get the
Everybody together,
Gatorade
maybe.
color from Troy.
Hey, but we still got NFL show
Purple,
going to be
purple.
going on for another few weeks at least. I mean, NFL is
Yeah.
going to be lasting another month or two, so definitely hop on their
So,
show. They got
yeah.
good bets for you. Maybe good bets, who knows? But yeah, no, they're awesome, man. Go check their show out, and we'll be back.
You'll have producer Colm, obviously, producer Christian, and my brother Troy are your hosts for the NFL show. So it's been a good season. Excited to talk to you guys after the national championship, man. We're